to another edition of Be the Change Georgia, where we amplify the voices of the inspiring business leaders surrounding the B Corp and social impact movements across the Southeast to help you learn how to build your legacy at the intersection of people, planet, purpose, and profit. Today, there are more than 8,000 B Corps in over 80 countries and 180 different industries, unified by one common goal: transforming the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. If you want to learn how to plug into our purpose-driven business community alongside the inspiring leaders we feature on this show, check us out at blocalgeorgia.com or on Instagram or Facebook at blocalgeorgia, and we'll hope to meet you at our next event. Today, you'll have the opportunity to learn from Seth Gunning, the founder of Sunpath Solar. Sunpath Solar is Georgia's only B Corp-certified solar installation company dedicated to making clean energy accessible and affordable for low to moderate income homeowners and nonprofits across the Southeast. Seth is a 20-year veteran of Georgia's solar landscape industry who's transitioned from a background in community organizing to leading a mission-driven business. He is a passionate advocate for energy justice, working to ensure that the financial benefits of clean energy reach the families who need them most. In this episode, we explore what it means to truly encode mission into your operations to survive the volatility of today's renewables industry. We also discuss the hurdles of navigating Georgia's 100-plus electric utilities, the innovative financing models democratizing access to solar for families across our state, and why the B Corp framework was the right choice for Sunpath's long-term sustainability. Stay tuned to learn how Seth is driving a more equitable and resilient energy future for all of Georgia. Enjoy the episode. Today's episode of Be the Change Georgia is brought to you by Ritaza. Ritaza is a B Corp and social enterprise striving to make local food more accessible and affordable while directly supporting our community's farmers, reconnecting consumers to their food, and feeding families struggling with food insecurity. Learn more at ritaza.com. Seth Gunning, welcome to Be the Change Georgia. How's it going, man?
Hey, Nathan. Great to be here.
Yeah, long time. Well, not really that long of a time, like a month, but long time no chat.
We are checking in a little less these days. It feels like I was talking to you once every 2 weeks there for a year.
Well, it's always weird when you finish the B Corp cert where you're like, we're still friends.
Where'd he go?
But it's so intense. Well, wait till you get to the new standards. They're even more fun. It's even more meetings. But honestly, it's funny, like the fear that everybody had for the new standards as we get into them now. I'm like, we've just moved the goal line a little bit, like, but it's all the same stuff. Like as you get into it, you're just translating it into new standards. So don't worry. Don't be afraid, Seth, or anyone else listening that's terrified of the new standards.
We're too new. We're still going headstrong.
Well, what's it been like? Like, what's like? Do you wake up every morning and you're like, thank God I'm a B Corp, or how's the transition to being a certified B look like?
I mean, a little bit, yeah. Certainly feel blessed and honored that we went through the process for a whole host of reasons. Like we're still so Sunpath, located in Atlanta, we are a fairly young organization, especially to be a B Corp. We are going into our third year of operations right now. So we're still formulating what our key performance indicators are. We're still actively building out our standard operating procedures on everything across the company. One of the first things we did as an organization was create mission, vision, values. The B Corp certification process helped us encode those things into our standard operating procedures, our employee handbooks, to make sure that they weren't just words on a wall, weren't just like, key phrases that we throw out occasionally, but they are built into how we are operating on a daily basis. So while it took a year, and it's something that we would have never been able to have done without the UGA MBA course, students who helped us get our application in order. It was a long process, but so worth it. Operationally, and I'll say I've been really surprised at how many of our customers, how much of the sort of broader consumer market is keyed into B Corp. We, you know, talking to folks at events or community spaces, and we mention we're B Corp certified, and you see eyes light up a little bit, like, oh, okay, you're not just like some solar door knocker that's that's trying to scam me into getting a $800 a month loan. Like, I now have an innate trust for what you're telling me, and that's been a little surprising to me. I mean, I've been familiar with B Corp for a long time, but I think of myself as a social and environmental justice advocate, and have been doing that work for decades. So it's good to see that B Corp has a reach on the broader consumer market.
So you made the decision to certify as a B Corp, but your background goes way back into clean energy initiatives. Like, you've been kind of like leading on this front and passionate about this front for a while. So how did it go from like this early youthful exuberance and passion into let me start my own company and go down this, what did I hear it described as earlier? Part confidence and part ignorance. That's the journey of entrepreneurship. How did you go from all of that transition into let me found a company and get this thing off the ground and see what we can do in this space that I'm so passionate about?
Yeah. So my entrepreneurial journey started at university. I went to Valdosta State in South Georgia, and in the early 2000s got involved in local and regional energy infrastructure advocacy. There were at the time there were some coal-fired power plants, biomass power plants, some cited in environmental justice communities. I was an anthropology major and spent time in other countries working with communities that were fighting oil development, and in a pretty rapid period got exposed to lots of environmental justice issues, and that took me into working on policy, energy policy, doing community organizing and advocacy on both the federal level around energy, climate, but also state energy policies, utility energy policy advocacy. So I've been doing that work now for the better part of 2 decades, but only moved into sort of the for-profit side of renewable energy, because a lot of that advocacy work was also advocating for policies that help level the playing field for renewable energy, advocating for solutions, not just cleaning up and shutting down our dirtiest fossil fuel infrastructure. And about 10 years ago, started to meet lots of clean energy entrepreneurs in the state and regionally. At that time, there are some folks who have been doing solar for 30 years in Georgia, but 10 years ago, there were still very, very few people who were working on solar, and got the opportunity to join a company. And I thought it was an interesting way for me to shift focus from strictly policy advocacy to what can the business community do to use this resources to help improve people's lives. There are lots of structural barriers, especially in a state like Georgia that's not traditionally friendly to what we call behind the meter solar. And that's just solar energy that is installed on someone's property that's used first and foremost to offset that consumer's utility electric bill. So yeah, have gotten involved in solar to learn it from the ground. Well, actually, from the roof down. I was offered a sales position out of the gate, and I said, I don't know enough about solar. I want to start installing. So I started as an installation technician, ran crews for a few years, helped run operations at a regional company, up into working as a sales director with a whole team of commercial and residential sales reps under me. And my focus the whole time was, running programs, wanting to run programs that were really pushing the envelope to increase accessibility to these resources. We're in a moment where energy prices from utilities are higher than they have ever been before. Folks are feeling that in Georgia over the past 3 years. Since 2022, Georgia Power rates have gone up by about 40%. So anybody you talk to, every time they get a utility bill every month, it's sort of a little advertisement for energy efficiency and solar, anything that you can do to bring your costs down. And that's happening in a moment where solar is the cheapest energy that has ever been created in human history, the cheapest electricity that's ever been created in human history. And that juxtaposition really bothers me, because of all of the electric generation resources that we have, solar is the only one that we ask consumers to pay upfront to build the power plant for, which makes it very inaccessible. Though Georgia Power has asked consumers to pay for financing on nuclear facilities and things, they typically don't come to consumers and say, hey, you're going to pay us $5 billion to build a natural gas facility before you ever get any energy from it, right? But that's how we've been asking consumers, homeowners, businesses, nonprofits, to access solar energy resources. We're really restricted in Georgia in how we can change that dynamic, how we can create financial models and partnerships that allow consumers to just pay for the energy that it produces. Because again, solar, amortized over its 25, 30-year lifetime, produces the cheapest electricity that we've ever been able to produce in human history. It's just about creating the programs to get people there.
Because I think there's a lot of misconception out there that like solar was only affordable because we subsidized it. So like when you talk about amortizing it over 25, 30 years, like is that without subsidies? Is that with subsidies? And then I know a lot's changed in the last 14 months, where a lot of some of these green energy initiatives have gone away. But when you talk about being creative, is that in funding mechanisms? Is that in how we spread out the upfront costs? Like, explain to the average person who might even just get caught up in the like, oh, it's all because we paid for it all. That's why it was affordable. Like, what's the truth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for decades, the nation had access to a tax credit, a tax incentive called the investment tax credit for solar. Homeowners, businesses could collect 30% of the cost of a project as a write-off of their tax liability. As a part of the Big Beautiful Bill, that was eliminated for homeowners at the end of 2025. There are additional provisions that were added to the tax credit that is still available for commercial and nonprofit entities, but it's scheduled to sunset essentially at the end of 2027. If you start a project really, really soon, you might have until the end of 2029. But it's changed the dynamic a lot, and it's really forced the industry to rethink accessibility in an interesting way. Georgia has a lot of solar. We have the 7th most installed solar capacity of any state in the country. But when you look at where that solar is and who owns it, we rank in the bottom 2 or 3 states for behind the meter solar. And that's the solar that is controlled by consumers, that really helps drive down the cost of monthly and annual energy for homeowners, businesses, nonprofits, right? The solar that's out there you see out in big farms, it's owned by or being sold directly to the utility. Still some of the cheapest energy or electricity in the generation mix. So it's helping drive down the cost of electricity on a system-wide basis. But that behind the meter clean energy, what we call distributed energy resource, is really what helps the individual consumer control their power costs when we have very, very little of it. Historically in Georgia, people have accessed solar by paying out of pocket, or going and getting, or like pulling debt capital, right? Getting a loan for solar, sometimes a HELOC, but usually just a specialized 20 to 25 year loan from a solar financer. And those two avenues for procurement have been difficult for folks who don't have lots of liquid capital. It's easy for a solar energy system on a home to range from $10,000 to $50,000 with battery storage. And to get a loan of that size, you got to have good credit, excellent debt to income ratio, right? And really have the drive to go carry that debt for 25, 30 years. Now that tax credit isn't available, the industry is having to rethink this structure, this concept that, people should pay for this power plant up front, because fewer consumers are interested in ownership. When we have had an incentive Now that it's taken away, even though it's only 30% of the cost, there's just a mental block. I think folks are like, yeah, why would I do this anymore? Why would I do it at all anymore?
Yeah.
So we have to shift the conversation to that wasn't the right, probably not the right way for a lot of people to access solar in the first place, right? Um, we've been developing what's called a power purchase agreement. In Georgia, they're called solar energy procurement agreements. We've been using these agreements for municipalities and nonprofits, some corporations for a long time. That's where we'll install the system at no cost to the consumer. They don't ever pay anything for maintenance. They just pay us to use the energy that system produces in the same way that they pay Georgia Power per kilowatt hour. That's what they pay for their solar bill. Because solar is the most affordable energy over the lifetime of the project, we're able to offer that energy at a significantly lower rate than what their incumbent utility is providing. We've been able to do that with nonprofits and businesses for a long time. In Georgia, we're just now starting to see that happen with homeowners or on the residential level. And we've been pushing financing partners, building partnerships with public-private entities to help create those sorts of programs.
That's really cool. I mean, just getting creative too, of like, I don't know, the innovation of the business model from, because I think a lot of us worried when all these subsidies went away that like, oh my God, all these solar companies are going to, that's the end of that. Of like, who's
Yeah.
knocking door to door? I mean, because it was always this like a luxury you'd see in like, nicer, more affluent neighborhoods where you'd see solar panels, but the upfront cost scared most people. I mean, I remember my wife and I looked at them and we were like, no, even with the 30% incentive, like that's a really expensive upfront
Mm-hmm.
commitment. It's kind of like a Costco, I mean, I mean, you hate to make that equation, but you watch, like, well, why do people, I remember I had a boss early in my career, I was still in my early 20s and like starting a sales job, like I don't have a lot of money. And he's like, I never understand why people only put like $10 in their gas tank. Like, why wouldn't you just fill the whole thing up when you're at the gas station? You're like, because they only have $10. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because they have $30 and 10 needs to go to food, 10 needs to go to this kid's school field trip. And so 10 goes in the tank. And it was like him wrapping his head around that just was like you could see it almost explode. And it's the same kind of concept of like, well, why would people not do this to save money? Like, because they don't have the capital to do it. They don't
Yeah.
have the Costco membership because they can't afford the Costco membership. So they buy the 4-pack of toilet paper that costs 60 cents a roll instead of the 100-pack that costs 10 cents a roll. Like, so it's interesting to see this. I love kind of like picking your brain on like the business model now and the shifting and like how do we bring this to consumers? And it's self-preservation for the solar companies. How do we survive? But then also this desire on your part, and I kind of want to come back to this, like the entrepreneurial journey of like this desire to make this more accessible. Because when we talk about, rising, it's the people who own homes where it's like you have taxes going up, property taxes raised. Like, how do neighborhoods gentrify? How do things flip over? Like, you have power bills, you have water bills, you have all these things increasing, and people can't afford to maintain the house, so they sell it or they get one of those cash now offers and they take it because their bills are out of control. So you've had this desire to like not only self-preserve and grow your own company, but also this desire to like use your company as this force for good and making these things more accessible and all the things that come after that. So I don't even know if there was a question in there, but but I'm just like blown away at like how like the win-win of this is we talk about B Corps and this like, we do it because it's the right thing. We do it, but we should also, be able to grow businesses, grow jobs, but also make an impact in the world.
It felt last year like we were doing something very wrong because the industry as a whole, especially organizations like this, us, we about half of our total installed capacity is with homeowners, and the other half mostly with nonprofits. But we work with lots of for-profit businesses as well. It felt like we were doing something wrong last year because the industry was in turmoil. There was, upheaval is probably a better word because of the loss of the tax credit. There was also a really big program called Solar for All, $7 billion investment nationally that was terminated right as programs were hitting the ground. We had been doing these, what we call third party ownership models since our inception in 2023. leasing, power purchase agreements, because we were focused on building new and more accessible avenues for homeowners and nonprofits to get access to the big benefits of solar. So when the tax credit went away, it didn't really impact us as much as it did for lots of other companies because we weren't focused on cash and loan markets. We weren't trying to, I mean, we do lots of, don't get me wrong, we'll work with anybody who wants to have a quality solar system built on their home and has the cash to do it. And if you have the cash, your long-term savings will be higher, but it is an upfront investment. It's going to take 10, 12 years for it to pay for itself. But we were really focused on helping the folks you're talking about who need their monthly energy costs to be as low as possible, as soon as possible, and don't have the capital to invest in infrastructure upgrades on the house. So because we've been focused on that market since our inception, we've been a little bit more insulated to some of these big policy changes. Our focus on our mission, on the social mission, and the quality of work that we do with customers, and that's across the board, not just the quality installation we leave behind, but the quality of the consultation we have on the front end, the quality of the interactions our operations team has with a customer, building relationships for the long term. We think focusing on that mission and that quality is going to take care of the financials, and it's going to help us insulate from what we call the solar coaster, these just rapid shifts and wild shifts in policy. Doing right by people, trying to do good work to help people meet some of the core challenges they face in life, will take care of the financials on the back end.
Have you had some like wins? Like, have you had
Oh yeah.
like, are there like, like the person that you help that, I don't know, like everybody loves a good story. Do you have any like just
Yeah.
ones that just like, this is why I'm doing this?
If I had the team on the call, everybody would have a story of a different homeowner, a different nonprofit that we've worked with. The very first residential customer that we had just helped solidify what we were doing and that we were doing the right thing, that this was what we needed to be focused on. Couple named Mark and Margot in Savannah, Georgia, on a fixed income, had medical issues that required that they needed some battery backup to keep equipment on, keep CPAP machines on when the power goes out. And we're experiencing rapidly rising electricity costs through this program called Georgia Bright, where we were very fortunate to be selected as a general contractor for right out of the gate when we started our company. They were able to access solar, no upfront cost, no maintenance cost to them ever, because they only ever pay us at the end of the day for the energy that gets produced by the system. So that means that we're incentivized to keep the system running optimally, because that's how we make our revenue, right? Or that's how our partners make revenue. They have since sent us several near zero utility bills, and in the fall of 24, there were some, I think it was 24, there were some pretty significant power outages in Savannah. Folks were out without power for a week, and they were having people over in the community to power things up. And we hear those sorts of stories all of the time. Our sales team gets fired up talking about like the homeowner that they just met, that this is, we know that our resource is really going to help them take that family vacation that they couldn't afford, stay in the house for, much longer, or at least feel way more confident that they're going to be able to meet their monthly obligations. So those stories are like a daily win for us.
I'm sure that makes the journey more rewarding too, from going, like, I was thinking when you were telling me your story of like, started from the roof down, of like, you went like the enterprise rent-a-car route of like management training. You're like, all right, I'll start with installing, and then okay, I get promoted into sales, and I can do run the ops team, and like, and now here you are getting to do this. It has to be a good feeling to know that you're making, again, that you've figured out, again, this is the whole beauty of the B Corp model, and this, how do we do some good in the world and still run a good business and provide for our families, provide for our employees and their families, and be able to grow and do good in the world while doing good for our business as well. It's super, super awesome.
Feel blessed. every day.
So yeah, did you have the aha moment? Like when was that? I'm doing this.
So I'd actually stepped back from the solar industry for a little bit. I was doing some consultancy work, helping housing developers do third party analysis of systems or commissioning, helping some other solar installers train their crews, things like that. But on a fairly limited basis. Then I heard about this forming public private partnership, Georgia Bright partnership between Capital Good Fund, which is a community development financial institution, and several counties and municipalities around the state, like City of Savannah, City of Atlanta, Decatur, DeKalb, Athens, Clarke County. I heard about it and inquired as to who their contractor was going to be to help run the program, and they opened an RFP, and I got so excited about it. Within 2 weeks, had filed all the paperwork and built a little coalition to file a bid, and that's how we got started. And I have a good friend in the solar industry who knows me well, and she said if you would have had any more than 2 weeks, and if you'd have thought about the magnitude of the journey you were getting ready to go on, you'd have overthought it and probably not done it. And that's probably really true. But yeah, blessed to be doing the work.
Yeah, I can say similar of yeah, if somebody was like, "Can I pay you to do my B Corp cert?" And I was like, LLC.com. Next thing you're on the Secretary of State website, and then you're I was like pre-chat GPT days too. You're like, need an SOW template. Luckily I worked at a consulting firm, but yeah, I've like if I'd have thought about this more, maybe I would have just kept that day job and kept on plugging along. But sometimes, yeah, you're just I don't know, you're in the right place at the right time, and you're always where you're
Yeah.
supposed to be, and you were here to make an impact in the world.
And there's so much more work to do. We are constantly trying to put ourselves in a better position to be able to help more people. We've been privileged to serve a little over 200 homeowners in the past several years, and dozens of nonprofits who are doing critical service work in the community. But there are millions of households in our state alone, let alone regionally or nationally, that are struggling to make ends meet. So while we celebrate every every project and every house and community we're able to help, there's a lot of work to do.
I spoke to the BPI summit, the Biodegradable Plastics Institute. So you have all these like composters and like really smart scientists in the room, and I used I used an example of a pilot in Athens, Clarke County, where we did a composting pilot, and then some statistics from Compost Now and some statistics from Better Earth Compostables because I know them both. They're both B Corps, and I did the math on like the number of households that have composting, so that use Compost Now
Mm.
services, and then the number of households there are. And then I did the same thing for like the B Corps, like how many businesses there are, how many are B Corps. And I came up to I tried to equate it to like Mount Everest. And I was like, at this point, we've climbed half an inch. We have 28,000 inches or 28,000 feet to go. But at the same time, like you said, we have to celebrate that progress, knowing that like we've done the work. We're in the parking lot. We've taken the climbing classes. We've done the practice climbs. We've hired the Sherpas. We've, paid for the flight. We're here. We got the gear. Like now we climb together.
Yeah, it takes a lot of prep work just to take that first step up Everest.
Yeah. What advice? I want to kind of close on some entrepreneurial advice, seeing as how you're in well, I feel like we're all in a volatile industry right now with like changing regulations and everything's politicized. Like, what advice would you have for an entrepreneur who maybe finds themselves in one of these ESG, like one of these fields right now where you're just trying to figure out like how do I survive? There's still a market for your work. How do I market it? How do I stay true to my values? What advice would you have for entrepreneurs listening to that who find yourself in similar shoes?
Somebody asked me a question a couple of days ago about advice just to start a business, and my advice to them was open your mail as soon as you get it. The administrative side of running a business can overtake you. If you let your mail sit for 2 weeks, a week, you're going to get hit with some fee that you didn't know you had coming, some notice that you didn't know you had to respond to. Open your mail quick. For businesses that are in the service industry, especially, I think a focus on the quality of the work you're doing and doing right by your customers goes a long way. It's similar to our philosophy about how if we focus on our value, on our mission, long term, the financials will take care of themselves. If you're taking care of your customers, I think you're going to be okay. You got to balance your books well. You have to do all the things to keep your company afloat, but even making the hard decisions to do right by a customer, if you make those consistently, you're going to build an excellent reputation, get lots of referrals. You'll go far.
Yeah, even in this climate, just do right. Do the right thing. Do the right thing by your own values, by your own mission. Do the right thing by your customers and your team. And oh my God, it sounds like we're talking about doing the right thing by your stakeholders.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're talking like two B Corps talking to each other right now.
And that sometimes is the harder thing to do. We could have formed a solar company and poured a bunch of money into social media ads promising free solar to people, and that's not a thing, by the way. And sold a bunch of cash or loan deals and probably been as big as we are right now, but we're not solving the problem that we really want to solve. And I think we're more resilient because we've done that hard work of building partnerships and creating innovative models to really meet the challenges that our communities face.
Amen, brother. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over literally now 2 years, and just to watch your growth, be able to be by your side with my students and then with my company and with Be Local Georgia along the certification route. And honestly, too, just what an honor today to pick your brain, because I clearly came in and you're probably like, he knows nothing about solar. We just know what we know. And I think you really dispelled a lot of myths today, too, and maybe gave us hope for the future of this, too, that like a lot of things right now are still going and thriving, and the good work is continuing. So I really appreciate you.
You're a driver, Nathan. It's been a privilege to work with you. Thank you for all your staff, the graduate students that we work with have done to help us get where we are today. We wouldn't be in the position we are to meet the challenges ahead without your support and the broader B Corp community's support. Thank you for getting us in.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. And it's official now. We didn't win Course of the Year for nothing. So it was very exciting. One of these years, I'm like the Susan Lucci of the B Academics world. One of these years, I'll win Instructor of the Year. But until then, I'll just be grateful to be nominated. So, Seth, always a pleasure, my man. Thank you for everything, and look forward to continuing the good work with you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Be the Change Georgia. We're grateful, as always, for the opportunity to serve you with this content and grow this incredible community of purpose-driven B Corp leaders. If you haven't already, we would be grateful for you to rate the show wherever you get your podcast by simply tapping the number of stars you think it deserves and sharing it with a friend. This helps us get the word out and continue to use our collective influence as a force for good. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the help from our production team at Chat with Leaders Media. Learn how you can launch your own podcast to grow your business at chatwithleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and now go be a leader worth following.